King Arthur. The name itself conjures a world of shimmering fantasy. We see him, clear as day, the noble king in shining armor, pulling the sword from the stone, a symbol of his divine right to rule. We see the majestic towers of Camelot rising from the mists. We see the wisdom of Merlin, the loyalty of the knights of the Round Table, the quest for the Holy Grail, the tragic love of Lancelot and Guinevere. He is the once and future king, the paragon of chivalry, the single greatest hero in the British mythos. His story is a bedrock of Western literature, a tale told and retold for 1,500 years. But what if I told you the greatest king in British history is a ghost? What if I told you that for the man named Arthur, the man who supposedly ruled a vast kingdom, there is not a single contemporary piece of evidence, not a coin minted in his name, not a law he passed, not a mention in the only surviving historical account from his supposed lifetime? He is a king who casts no shadow in the historical record. To find the truth, we must strip away the shining armor and the fairy tale castles. We must travel back to a time far darker and more desperate than any legend dares to admit. The 5th and 6th centuries. The Romans are gone. For 400 years, Britannia had been a cog in the mighty Roman machine. It had roads, cities, law, and legions. Then the empire crumbled. The legions were recalled, leaving the island defenseless, a ship cut adrift in a gathering storm. A power vacuum was created, and nature abhors a vacuum. From the east came the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, pagan seafaring warriors pouring into the fertile lands, burning the Roman villas, shattering the old world. This was not an age of chivalry. It was an age of chaos, slaughter, and survival. An age of darkness where history wasn't written down, it was lost in the smoke of burning settlements. This is the world that supposedly created King Arthur. So where is he? Our first clue, paradoxically, comes from his absence. The only major historical text from this era was written by a British monk named Gildas. He writes with fury about the Saxon invasions and the weakness of British leaders. He describes a great, tide-turning victory for the Britons at a place called the Battle of Badon Hill, a battle that later legends would claim was Arthur's crowning achievement. But Gildas, writing within living memory of the battle, never once mentions the name Arthur. He credits the victory to another Roman-British leader, Ambrosius Aurelianus. It's a stunning omission. It's like telling the story of the American Revolution without mentioning George Washington. Why would he leave out the hero of the hour? The simple, brutal answer might be because in that hour, a hero named King Arthur did not exist. The first whisper of his name doesn't appear for another 300 years in a 9th century text called the Historia Brittonum, attributed to a Welsh monk named Nennius. And what Nennius describes is not a king. He lists 12 great battles fought against the Saxons, and he says the leader of the Britons in these battles was a man named Arthur. But he gives him a specific title, not Rex, the Latin for king. He calls him the Dux Bellorum, the commander of battles, a warlord. This is our first glimpse of the real man behind the myth, not a monarch sitting on a throne, but a warrior in the mud and the blood. A Romano-British general, perhaps of high birth, using his inherited Roman military tactics to rally the scattered British tribes against a common foe. He was the last flicker of Roman order against the encroaching darkness. The next clue comes from another Welsh text, the Annals Cambriae. These annals mention Arthur in 2 short entries. One entry for the Battle of Badon, stating Arthur carried the cross of Christ on his shoulders and won the day, and another for the Battle of Camlann, which it simply states was a battle in which Arthur and Medrawd fell. Medrawd is the origin of the villainous Mordred. There is no mention of treason or an affair, just 2 warriors dying in a battle. So the earliest records paint a picture not of a king, but of a successful warlord who eventually died in battle. So how did this warrior become the legend we know today? The answer is that the story was passed down not by historians, but by storytellers, particularly the Welsh bards. In a land losing its identity, the memory of a great hero who fought back became a symbol of hope. His story grew with each telling, his victories becoming more miraculous, his stature more grand. And then came one man who would change everything, Geoffrey of Monmouth. In the 12th century, he wrote his History of the Kings of Britain, a medieval bestseller. It was mostly fiction, but it was presented as fact. Geoffrey took the obscure warlord Arthur and transformed him. He gave him a crown, the wizard Merlin, the sword Caliban, which would become Excalibur, and a lineage stretching back to Troy. He invented the whole sweeping epic, creating a national hero for a new Norman England. It was from this point on that the legend exploded. French poets added the courtly romance, the Round Table, and the character of Lancelot. The quest for the Holy Grail was woven in. Arthur became less of a British warlord and more of a pan-European Christian knight. But is there any physical proof, any archaeology that points to a real Dux Bellorum? The search leads us to two enigmatic locations. First, Tintagel Castle in Cornwall, the legendary birthplace of Arthur. For years, historians dismissed the link, but in 1998, archaeologists excavating there unearthed a small slate dating to the 6th century. Inscribed on it were Latin words, including a name Artognou, the stone of Artognou. It wasn't the king himself, but it was stunning proof that a name very much like Arthur was known among the high-status, literate people of this region at exactly the right time. The second location is Cadbury Castle, a massive Iron Age hill fort. Excavations revealed that this ancient fort was massively refortified in the 6th century. Someone built a great hall on its summit and huge defensive ramparts of stone and timber, far beyond the capabilities of a petty chieftain. It was the headquarters of a leader with immense resources and power, a leader trying to hold the line. A place fit for a Dux Bellorum, a place that could have been in its time a Camelot. So who was King Arthur? The truth is, he was probably never a king. The shining armor, the castle, the round table, these are the dreams of a later age, projected onto the dark canvas of the past. The real Arthur, if he existed, was likely something far grimmer and more impressive. A warrior forged in the twilight of civilization. The last Roman Briton, leading desperate charges against the Saxon tide. A man who became a symbol of resistance, a flickering candle of hope against an overwhelming darkness. His story is a testament to the power of a good idea. The historical man may be a ghost, lost to the fog of war, but the legend he became is more powerful and more real than any king could ever hope to be. The search for Arthur doesn't reveal a man of flesh and blood, but a reflection of what we need our heroes to be, a promise that even in the darkest of nights, there can be a light and a leader worth following.